Would you stop with the plan B all the time and just focus on the plan A? You're gonna make it, Matt. Some people don't understand the path to greatness or the path of doing awesome things is to not be a follower, but to be a student. I didn't know how we were going to pay for myself. I sure as heck wasn't going to pay myself $100,000 because we didn't have enough money. My passion for who I want to be in life and what I want to represent got me fired. Anything that's worth doing is going to have pain in it. It's everywhere you look. Okay, so what happened was, of course, I'm bored and I'm scrolling through reels and I find this reel. And I'm always looking for people that are excellent in their field because, and I tell people this all the time, you only get to give advice or recommend things if you're really good at what you do. I had a little chat with a friend of mine here a while back. He's a startup company and he was trying to tell people how to run a company and all this. And I told him, I said, hey, bud, you should probably be asking questions, not giving results, because until the proof's in the pudding, you really can't go out there and toot your horn. And I'm very careful about tooting my horn. I think that we do culture really well. So I like to think that I can give a little bit of advice on culture, but I'm also a student. And I do believe I spend a minimum of an hour a day, 7 days a week, learning more about culture. Well, that's when I stumbled across this video. And I'm going to be honest with you. I am the furthest thing from an Alabama fan.
I was going to say, I wasn't sure. That was one of my questions.
Well, I definitely do not like Alabama.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they run a good program and they love to win. Nebraska in the 90s ran a very clean program. Tom Osborne is probably one of the absolute most salt of the earth humans in the world. I put him in that 1% factor of people that really, really do care about other people. And a lot of people like to say they care about other people and that they want culture, but culture really, it takes a lot of work and it costs money and time and effort and all these things. So, but Nick Saban, I'll give him credit. And I'm not going to put him in the caliber of Tom Osborne because I think that Tom Osborne, and I think Nick Saban would even tell you that Tom Osborne is another caliber because the proof's been in the pudding of what he did and the legacy that he left at Nebraska. But when I watched this video, I instantly thought, holy cow, that is good stuff because it shows it's so deep. Did you appreciate it or did you get it? What's your opinion of the video? Are we going to watch it? We're going to watch it together, right?
Yeah. So we're definitely going to watch it together. Yeah. Watching the video, a few things stuck out to me. I watched it a couple of times. A few things stuck out to me. I thought it was very interesting, the mindset that these other coaches had and a willingness to do what they did. And I think it would also be interesting to know for the 5 that did this, how many others were in a tough position and they just couldn't bring themselves to humble themselves. So the one guy, he talked about, I'm trying to think who it was. He was the guy that was the Tennessee coach. And he said, I made $4 million my last year at Tennessee. And then he goes on and starts over in Alabama and he got paid $30,000 for a bottom of the rung position. I thought that was very interesting that these guys were open to that.
Not only did he get paid a bottom of the rung, but he had to take the little kids. Was that the coach that had to take the little kids to the pool? I can't remember.
I can't remember. Yeah. So you want to watch the video?
Yeah, let's watch the. I love the video, so let's watch it.
Football coach getting fired in an airport parking lot. That's right. USC didn't care how they fired Lane Kiffin; they just wanted him gone.
Years later, the scars remain.
When you get fired, it's as bad as it gets. I remember taking my kids bowling and not bowling because I could feel the people looking at me like, oh, there's the fired loser head coach.
It's the first time I'd ever been fired. We were at the lowest moment, my wife and I, our family.
I'm going to be a head coach for the next 30 years of my life and everything's great. Next thing you know, you're not a head coach anymore.
It's very humbling. You can be at the top of it one day and at the bottom of it the next.
When you get fired in coaching, you find out really right away that maybe you don't have as many friends as you thought you did have.
Bill O'Brien, Lane Kiffin, Michael Loxley, Steve Sarkisian, and Butch Jones have all been head coaches and have all been on the wrong side of a pink slip. But they have something else in common.
Can you stop it?
A lifeline from the...
This part of this right here hit home with me, mostly because I've been fired twice. Embarrassing. Holy cow.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in the limelight. I mean, I had worked for 2 different construction companies. My passion for who I want to be in life and what I want to represent got me fired. And I was vocal about it, and I am vocal about it. And I tell people when somebody needs to hear something, I'm pretty good about telling them. I've even said some things to people that later on I was like, ooh, I could have delivered that a lot better. I've made this mistake. And most of the people in my inner circle will say, yeah, you've hurt me before with your comments. So I know that getting fired hurts. And boy, for those guys being in the limelight, that struck home for me. So right away, I'm hooked on this video, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it hurts. I can't imagine to be at the level they are, where everywhere you go, at least for me, only my inner circle knew I got fired, and my kids, which is hard enough to swallow. So
yeah.
But I also, what turns right now is, if I wouldn't have got fired on August 24th, 2014 at 2:35 in the afternoon, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Right.
And I couldn't do the things I did for today because I would have rode that easy brand. I was making great money. I had the side gig of Empire. I started Empire in 2009. The guy that hired me knew that I started. He started up. He needed help. He said, Matt, you can do your side hustle. I will support it. I love it. Matter of fact, sometimes he even gave me people to help me do my side hustle of doing fencing and stuff like that, and netting, and growing our business. So if I wouldn't have got fired, I wouldn't be where I'm at. That's the next part of this video of how you rebound after you get fired. This is life lesson number 1 that I think is so incredible for small businesses to understand, is that sometimes you're going to have to make tough decisions. Sometimes you're going to have to fire somebody, knowing that more than likely they will rebound and come out of that, especially if they're strong-willed. But also sometimes we have to get fired and we have to be demoted or even moved out of spots in your company and pull somebody else into it. So there's so much right here in this first understanding. Anything that's worth doing is going to have pain in it. It's everywhere you look. A fire is so destructive. It burns grass to a pulp. It gets so hot that it'll split rocks. But what comes on the other side of this beautiful vegetation. And I could go on for hours about all these analogies of pain and suffering and what comes on the other side.
Do you think that it's fair to put under this umbrella, this video, this story is specifically about people having a job and losing a prestigious job, but isn't it fair to just put failure under that umbrella? Because as an entrepreneur, you're probably not going to find yourself in a position. A client might fire you, one that you feel like you can't live without, but you are going to find yourself up against what feels like devastating failure at some point in this journey.
Absolutely.
And so that really begs that question, right? It's like, what's the mindset at that point? If you know it's going to happen, what's the mindset at that point to take a step forward? So,
right. Let's continue the video because I love this next part.
Alabama's Nick Saban.
I like 2 types of people. I like people who are young and have a chance to be really good, like Kirby or Will Muschamp. Jimbo was a young guy. And then I like guys that have a lot of experience, that have a track record of being able to do something extremely well.
I couldn't get anything. No one would talk to me. He said, hey, come out. I didn't have anything to do. Come out, just kind of check out what we do. I'm sitting there going, I'm the fired USC coach. Why is Nick Saban even asking me anything?
Lane Kiffin loves to take big shots down the field. There it is. Shot taken.
You've had an issue. You got fired. Go there. You're washed of all of it. I felt people viewing me different on all this because he's getting the Nick Saban stamp.
I think he sees beyond the firing of individual coaches and digs into the coach, the scheme, the developer of talent,
You're able to watch coach every single day. And the process is something that he talks about a lot. And you learn about the different processes within the program. And I think that's something that has been invaluable to me.
Kiffin and O'Brien came in as offensive coordinators, but Sarkisian, Loxley, and Jones were hired as analysts, which is near the bottom of the Bama coaching food chain. Do you remember how much you made your final season at Tennessee?
$4 million.
Wow.
Do you know how much you got paid your first year at Alabama as an analyst?
$30,000.
I think I made $35,000. I told Nick I'll do it, and I'll do it for free.
I'm making $35,000 a year, 27 years into the profession. The staff room, we're in the outfield. It's affectionately called the outfield. The infield is the big table where the full-time assistant coaches sit and the head coach.
It's like Thanksgiving at the kids' table. You know, you get humbled quick.
They usually assign the outfield a lot of these terrible jobs. And one of the terrible jobs is to take the little kids over to the swimming pool doing camp.
Okay,
I go from running a full football.
All right. So being humbled. Now, the naysayers out there that watch this video are probably going to say, well, he made $4 million, so he could take a $30,000 cut in pay. He did this, he did this. Well, I'll be honest with you. When I was at the construction company, I was making over $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
I put some savings away. But when I got fired, I'm telling you that the money amount didn't matter. It stung and it hurt. And then I had to go work for my own company that I already had 3 or 4 people on my team that were doing work, and they were wanting me to come on anyhow, but I didn't know how we were going to pay for myself. I sure as heck wasn't going to pay myself $100,000 because we didn't have enough money.
Yeah.
And so I had decided not to pay myself at all from August 24th till the first pay period in January. So, and Sarah does our book. She does our account. She's like, Matt, we have to pay you something. You know, you deserve it, blah, blah. I said, no, we can't. We have to make sure we can make it first. Now, I've never told anybody this, but I had secretly called another construction company and had a job lined up for October 1st if I couldn't put the proof in.
Yeah.
But the owner of that construction company told me, would you stop with the plan B all the time and just focus on the plan A? You're going to make it, Matt. We all know you can do it. Let us give you a job. We have a job here. Why don't you do this fence job for us and we can use over here? And I've never admitted that because I thought it showed weakness in myself that I had tried to line up another secret job that I never told anybody. I was like, all right, so if I get to this point, I can just here. So, but what I'm saying to the naysayers out there is, listen, these guys working for $30,000 is a big slap in the face. That's very humbling. Plus, the humility of you went from running an entire program to taking little kids to the pool. How about that? That is being knocked to your knees.
Yeah, forget what anybody else thinks. How do you feel in that moment, living with yourself, right?
Yes. And that's torture. I'll be honest with you, I'm not even a big fan of little kids. I want them old enough to where I can play catch with them and play ball with them. Them little toddler guys, I don't want any part of that punishment. That is severe punishment. That's worse than making only $30,000 after. But I'm joking a little bit. I love kids, and I can't wait to have my own grandkids someday. But with that being said, I really think this shows the humility that those men take. And like you said, how many people out there said, no way, I'm not going to go do that. And are they still, I mean, I'd love to hear that number someday of how many people said, I should have took the offer from Nick Saban. I should have went and learned more, figured out a better program, dialed it in. I wasn't ready to run USC or Ole Miss or whatever they are. I had to learn a little bit more. That's really humiliating. And as entrepreneurs, sometimes we have to learn that stride of saying, this one didn't work out.
Yeah. I can think of some really tough experiences I've had in that vein, and it's really hard in that moment to see through the emotion and the pain of dealing with the loss, right?
Right.
And what do you think is that defining factor to see through it? Like, what's the difference maker in somebody that just stops right there and they can't recover versus a person that pushes forward into that next thing?
The difference is some people don't understand the path to greatness or the path of doing awesome things is to not be a follower, but to be a student. I heard that Jim Rohn said that. I heard that years ago, and it really struck home with me that you have to constantly be learning, and you have to be willing to learn. Those that go out there that say they know it all and know what they're doing and have got it down, those are the fools. And I believe that's even biblical. The ones that are willing to take it all in and learn and listen and say, I'm not going to be a follower. I'm going to be a student. I'm going to walk behind this person, and I'm going to pick up every breadcrumb that I can learn along the way, and constantly be educating yourself and constantly be. That's why I think it took me so long. And I'm 51 years old now. I've been at this for a long time. I started my first business when I was 18, ran it into the ground because I wasn't a student. I thought I could do it. And I thought I could just outwork everybody. I didn't realize I need to become more educated in culture, more educated in business, more educated in accounting, I mean, there's just so much to learn, right? So I think that's the defining moment. When people figure out the point that I'm not going to go do what they did. I'm not going to be a follower and copy them, but I'm going to be a student, and I'm going to make my own recipe so I have my own cookie to sell. That's the defining moment. Does that answer it?
It does. What gave you the courage, the ability, the confidence to not take that plan B?
I'm Polish.
Unpack that.
I'm just not smart enough to know when to quit. I don't give up very easy. I'm not real smart. Yeah. I've said for years, I don't mind not being the brightest bulb in the chandelier. It doesn't bother me. I don't care if people look at me and say, wow, you spelled that word wrong. Oh, I did? Let me try autocorrect. That doesn't bother me. It literally does not offend me. So I wasn't smart enough to give up. But I did throw away that plan B with words of encouragement from a friend. And I figured out that, and I tell people all the time, when you're going to start business, it's okay to have a plan B. It is okay. And it's probably good. It's probably good to start out as a side hustle. It's probably good to ask friends for help. It's probably good to do a lot of those things. But you can't put so much weight into that plan B that you don't focus on plan A. That's where the proof of the pudding is you have to be willing to go all in. You have to burn that boat. And I've said this for years that if your men and your team know that there's a plan B and they can retreat to the boat, you'll never take over the island, because as soon as times get tough a little bit, they give up and they run back to the boat to go back to the mother country.
Yeah.
So that's why the captain of the boat said, this time when we go to take over the island, we're going to burn all the boats so that nobody's going back.
Yeah.
We're either going to die or make this work. Now, it's a little extreme. That's the root of being a great entrepreneur from being a really good entrepreneur.
I have heard the sentiment expressed that things don't happen to us, they happen for us.
Well
and
said.
It makes me wonder, and I know this is probably a tough question, would you have ever quit the construction job and just gone out and done Empire if it hadn't come to that halt, if it hadn't been taken away, if you hadn't had to go through that difficult transition?
No. I would have never quit, because he even offered me a stock option to give me the golden handcuffs, and I gave that up. When we started that company with a friend of mine, the construction company, he had started it in late 2008, asked me to come on. We had been friends for quite a while. We were both superintendents at Landscapes Unlimited together. And when he asked me to come on, he had done about $800,000 worth of work. When I left, he was at about $60 million. He's well over $200 million now.
Wow.
They're very successful. He's got his own jet. He's flying around. I mean, he's very successful. So that I could have been an owner of that. I could have been a partner in that. But I really, you're right. What needed to happen was I needed to get fired. I had to be fired. Otherwise, I would have never done it.
It's that I think that's just a really important lesson, right? That we all could consider when the hard thing happens. Maybe that's exactly what we needed. But you want to go back to the video? Because I mean, what happens next, right? Like, that's a really good part.
Yeah.
Organization to pool duty. I said, man, I really have hit rock bottom right here.
That's terrible ball security, Zay.
Loxley worked his way from rock bottom to offensive coordinator. So did Sarkisian. Jones was named special assistant to the head coach. Eventually, each got another chance to run his own program.
As I like to say, the holy water of Nick Saban thrown on you to say yes.
I'm proud of the fact that we've had a lot of guys here that were good people, that did a really good job, and they got rewarded because of the good job that they did.
Okay.
But I don't think it's because of Nick Saban.
Oh.
I think it's because of Alabama.
Well, what do you think of that comment?
I think it says a lot about the kind of program that he runs. It is obviously a lot about Nick Saban, but the fact that he doesn't want that glory, he doesn't want to say this is all about me. It's about the program. It's about the team. It's about the guys. You know, man, it kind of gives you chills. Or does me. Oh,
it gets me emotional. I watched this video and I melted. I was just like, oh my gosh, good for you, man. And I am not a Nick Saban fan.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm a Tom Osborne fan. I'm a John Wooden fan. Those are the coaches that I think everyone should aspire to be like. And I believe that Nick Saban would tell you the same thing, that John Wooden is the elite. Tom Osborne is the elite. But so many people out there are probably saying, well, that's lip service. Well, you know what? Maybe it is. But he didn't need to say it. He didn't have to say it. He could have said, hey, this is the way I run things here. This is just the way I choose to do it.
Yeah.
And he could have been humble in that way. But instead, he's trying to deflect this. And I get this a lot with our company, and we've grown. We have over 100 teammates right now. That's a lot. When you figure there was in 2000, on August 24, 2014, there's 4 of us.
Yeah.
So, 9 years, going from 4 to 100, it's not too bad of a run. And we've done most of it from 2018 on, when I actually started educating myself, and I read the book Good to Great. I read the book The Why by Simon Sinek. I started reading, which is very difficult for me. I have a hard time reading. Words get jumbled up for me, and my brain goes somewhere else half the time. And the rest of the time, I fall asleep in the middle of reading, and I have to start over. Reading is not a pleasurable thing for me. It's very painful. But I had to do it to get to where we're going. And when I decided to commit to it, to be a student, not a follower, it changed our trajectory. And I don't want to do this without the people around us that I have around me. I don't want to do it without Scott. I don't want to do it without Jamie. I don't want to do it without Sarah. I don't want to do it without any of them. My entire team is amazing. And it's not about me. It's about our culture. It's about what we've decided as a team that we are going to represent and do. I just happen to be the loudest voice. I'm the one that calls you up and say, Brad, check this out.
What do you think about his approach to taking on these coaches after they've been tarnished, after they've been fired? I would have to imagine that it's not a typical approach to recruiting talent, right? Like where's the lesson in that? I mean, what do you hear in that, and like what we could take away in our businesses?
Well, I think he's very clear that he loves to surround himself with young people. And young people are going to make lots of mistakes, right? They're going to jump to conclusions. They're going to say, hey, we should do this and we should do this and have all these ideas. But I think he's also very clear that he likes the more seasoned, more sophisticated thinking people also. And then you put those two together and they feed off of each other. And that's his secret sauce.
Yeah.
Going out there, finding that young person. So we have a fab shop, and it's struggling. We've struggled with it. I've been out there. I get up early every morning. I go out there. I'm with them. I don't know if you follow me on Facebook, but I've done some early morning videos of the guys out there grinding it, and they're literally grinding it with the grinder. But at first I was like, man, I've got to get some more seasoned guys out here. I got to get this. But then I figured out these young guys are awesome. These millennials are awesome because they want to put out a perfect product. They want a pat on the back. And then I hired this an older gentleman. His name's Jerry, and he's retired. And this was before I even saw this video. But this is what I thought of. When I put Jerry with 5 or 6 young fab guys, look out. Because Jerry figured out the power of the finger. He can say, all right, hey guys, we need to do this, 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 and this, and this. And they get excited because now Jerry's talking to them and helping them. Yeah. Now we're building, now we're puffing with smoke, right? Now you can see that we're not spinning our wheels. We're getting some traction. We're moving. I think that's what Nick Saban is saying is, hey, just because they got fired, they have so much more to offer. And they're looking past that. He's looking past that firing thing. And plus he understands in that industry probably that people get fired for silly things. And there's certain, I mean, let's admit, what's the Patriots coach? What's his name?
Belichick.
He couldn't do it at the Browns, could he?
Right.
But now look at him. Part of that could have been the ownership at the Browns wouldn't give him the free reign. Or maybe Mr. Kraft reeled him in and said, no, we're doing it this way. I don't know, but there had to be something different there, right?
Yeah.
For that for him to get that success. Maybe it was Tom Brady. We don't know, or whatever it is. I'm not a big football fan. I don't study that as much, but anyhow, yeah, I don't know. Are we done with the video? I can't remember, but I think there's just so much here for us entrepreneurs to learn from that more entrepreneurs. I put it on my Facebook, and I don't post that often, but I put it on there because I was like, doggone it, this is good stuff.
Well, I heard one other thing that I would love to get your take on.
Okay.
Is the story arc, these guys, he takes in these guys because he sees their real potential, right? He brings them into the program because of what it means for him to reinsert them and bring them back to positions of prominence where they can excel, where their talents are put on display again, where they're lifted up. It results in them moving on beyond the Alabama organization to running rivalries. Like he plays against these coaches now. He is training his literal competition in the most basic sense. But in his mind, it's making the Alabama organization stronger to go through this process. And I think entrepreneurs, a lot of that I've talked to, you've heard this, I don't want to train my competition. What's like your take on that and what we can learn from like that attitude?
So one of my absolute dearest friends in the fence industry is Joe Everest. And he says it quite often that high tides will rise all ships. I really do believe that. And I'm telling you, I've invited our competition in our backyard, JC Fencing, John, I've literally invited him out for free training. I told him it was free training. Technically, I paid for the training. I paid for Sean King to come and train my crew. And I thought, man, if we could train 2 or 3 other companies, now we're all doing better work and understanding business practices. Now we're all getting up higher. And I don't mind losing jobs. There's plenty of work out there. It does not bother me. Am I a competitive guy and I like to win? Absolutely. Have I went and tore a bit apart afterwards and said, what did we miss? And tried to make us better? Absolutely. But I don't fret over it. Once it's done, it's done. We move on and we go. And I tell our team all the time, maybe it was a godsend that we didn't land that job.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a bad customer. There's reasons why. Maybe there's another job coming that if we were doing, and I've seen this in our company, where we land a job where down the road, we wouldn't have been able to do it or even bid it had we landed another job because it would have ate up our bonding or it would have put us in out of our people or not enough team members. I don't think he's worried about them going to another school.
Right.
One, because he's got so many weapons in his arsenal that they're going to have to go there and build that and do that and try to create that same culture. And it's not easy to do. And he knows that. He knows that. I'll be honest with you. I don't care about my competition. I mean, I care about them as humans.
Yeah.
But they're no threat to us. I tell people all the time, I'm not your competition. We're not your competition. Also, I tell people all the time, the grass might be greener on the other side of the fence. But how do you know there's not a septic tank underneath there?
Yeah.
So be careful what you wish for, or if you want to get the job that your competition gets, because it might not have been that great of a job. So be careful. So I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it's really good advice. I can think of the green patch in my front yard where the septic tank is when you're saying it.
That's awesome. So you know exactly what I'm talking about, what could be underneath there.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Man, it's such an awesome video. So everybody go check it out. It's Nick Saban Stamp. I think you can find it if you search Nick Saban Stamp on YouTube, on Facebook. I've kind of watched a couple different versions of it. It's worth a listen. I hope everybody enjoyed the commentary, though. I think this is really cool to break something like that, because on the surface, I'm not sure that all the lessons were just immediately apparent. So I think what you shared in this really kind of helps dig past the surface, and is a great illustration of what you said, which is that being a student. To be a student, you have to think critically. You can't just casually observe things. You have to ask the right questions and really dig in to what you're studying, right? And who you're studying. And I think this was like a perfect example of that. I hope we can find more content and do this with it, because I know there's some other really good stuff out there that I would love to hear your take on. So
I think this should be inspiring, and we as humans should want to inspire others. And I'm hoping that with a little bit of this, we can inspire more entrepreneurs to don't be so critical and judgmental. Be more curious, which is a Ted Lasso. I don't know if you watch Ted Lasso, but be curious. Ask the question, hey, would you want to come and join us? I know you just got fired over there, but would you want to come get us or join us? But yeah, it's great. Thank you, Brad, for carving out some time. I wanted to share this with you because I knew that you would appreciate the content that Nick Saban put in that video.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you, Matt.
All right.